Welcome back to another episode of Psychocinematic. Today, my guest is actor Ricky He. You might know him as Kenny from the TV show From. In addition to Kenny, he's also worked on a bunch of other projects. I'm definitely going to be picking his brain about From and the upcoming season 4 because at the time of shooting this, all of season 3 has now come out and season 4 has been announced. So with that, here's Ricky. Ricky, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. I'm super excited to pick your brain about From. I mean, that show's been like the most addicting thing that my wife and I have watched in recent memory, and you do an incredible job on there, so kudos to you.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
So before we go any further about me asking you about From, I'm kind of curious a little bit about your background and how you got into acting in the first place.
I went to a drama high school. It was a fine arts high school, but I got into the drama program. And the high school that I went to was kind of like on the more affluent side of town. And I used to have to, I applied not thinking that I would get in. It was just something that my parents told me to do. And I got in, got into the school. And so now I'm like taking the bus like for like 50 minutes every day to get to school. But it was like well worth it because it was just so much fun. I also kind of in my head thought maybe it would be like not like regular school and I could just do the drama program there, and then I could kind of like just get by. But it turned out no, it was both of those things, and I ended up being not very good at both of those things. And so I just kind of decided to stop doing the drama program by like the 11th grade, I think. And then finally, after like 2 years in university, I'm like, I think I'm gonna get back into it. And that's how I got started.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And so from out of university, was it a pretty smooth transition into acting and things, or were you doing things throughout high school?
So the tricky thing was like in my head, acting was always something that I'm like, you know what? Like, how do I ensure that I have as few regrets as possible? And so I kind of like rationalized, I think when I was like 20, maybe 19, that, okay, I'm going to give this acting thing a go while I try to finish university. Because if I just fully dive into it and it fails, then I'm still in my early 20s. I'm still young enough to like try something else. But I figured if I don't try now and I'm like 45 years old and I have this massive regret, not that it's too late. I think it's always a good time to start, but I would have felt like, damn, I could have started, 20 years ago or whatever. And so I tried to do both at the same time, but what ended up happening was like the perfect example of how it all went wrong was I got to do this commercial for Pennzoil because they had this big viral commercial of like this car like street racing. It kind of looked like Initial D or like like it looked like a video game and it was so sick. And they shot like a follow up to it, which was kind of a weird little short film prequel to that. And we shot that. It was a night shoot. And I shot that for like we were shooting that until like I think 6 a.m. from like midnight. Um, and then that morning at 8 a.m., I had a psychology final that I need to write. And I slept through the entire final.
Wow.
So that's when you're like, okay, cool. So maybe I need to commit to one of these two things instead of trying to spread myself too thin. And so that's what I did. I dropped out of university and I pursued basically nothing for a while.
Yeah.
But I was doing it.
And how'd your parents feel about that? Like having been encouraging you to do the fine arts school, but then dropping out of the next school to do that?
Yeah, not great. Not great. Um, Asian parents, I think immigrant parents in general, love to brag about all the cool extracurriculars that their kids are doing until it's like, all right, now get a job. You know what I mean? Like we put you through violin or piano or whatever so we can flex on our friends, not so you can become a musician. Yeah, you idiot.
That's
You
funny.
know? Yeah, and so that's they weren't pleased about it. They didn't know for a long time that I was pursuing acting though. Like I was, I'm like, I took semesters off, and the first time I took a semester off, they're like, "You're gonna take this semester off, and you're never gonna come back." And I'm like, "That's not true." And I came back, so they were wrong. But then eventually, I did drop out, so they were right.
Hmm.
But didn't. I didn't tell anybody like my friends or my family that I was pursuing acting for a long time. Like I had this kind of weird goal to like even just like have a single line, in a movie or something like that. And then one day be like, hey dad, let's go check out this movie. I hear it's good. And then sit down and then like I'm on the big screen and look at that. Who's
Mm,
that?
yeah,
Um, but that dream did not work out yet.
gotcha.
Yeah.
And so now how do they feel about the fact that you chose acting?
I think they see how how meaningful it is to me, and I think they see that like, for the last couple of years I've found like a moderate amount of success, and um you know I'm slowly starting to get recognized at like dim sum restaurants, so they're kind of like, okay, okay, what's good,
We can brag
uh
again.
yeah, it's like, yes, yeah, we can brag again. But like my dad has been blue collar his whole life, and he's the type of person, he's like the hardest working person I know, and he's the type of person that just like it's hard for him to quantify work unless you're physically doing something,
Mhm.
right? And he's the type of person that derives all of his value and all of other people's value from the amount of hard work that they put in. And so, like in between jobs, even if I'm say we're doing this interview, he'll like knock on the door and peek his head in and be like, so it's been a couple months since you worked, huh? It's like that.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, dad, I'm on a hit TV show. I'm on the number one TV show of the platform. And he's like, yeah, must be convenient.
Yeah,
Yeah, so it's navigating that, them bragging about me, then but then also being like, so what are you doing? Yeah.
gotcha. Yeah, that's funny and tough, but I'm sure it also has kind of made you the worker that you are today. That kind of work ethic probably helps a lot in
Yeah.
acting.
Oh, 100%, because it's like, we truly have the best job in the world in a lot of ways. Like I get to put makeup on my face, get dressed up, and then play pretend for a living. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like before we start recording, we were talking about Yu-Gi-Oh!
Hmm.
Like every kid in their parents' basement or in their bedroom, like acting out the scenes, like,
Hmm.
like you're Yugi himself. And it's like that's basically what I do for a living, and that's pretty incredible. And a lot of times when I am, say I have like I don't know, like a 5 a.m. call time and I'm driving an hour to set and I'm like tired and I'm like getting to set, I like have to like shake myself a little bit and be like, dude, if my dad came with me to work today, he'd be like, this is your job? Like you're just sitting here. Like,
Hmm.
you're chilling. Like, you know what I mean? Like this is not, so
Yeah.
um yeah, for sure. That's where I get my work ethic from, for
Hmm.
sure.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So, season 4 was announced a couple weeks ago. Congrats on getting the season 4. And I'm curious, have they, scheduled when you guys are supposed to shoot? Are you allowed to say that?
Um, N- They haven't given us our official dates yet, but the whispers that I'm hearing, and it's not confirmed, is like we're probably going to head back maybe like in the springtime or like late spring, early summer. But I think John Griffin and Jeff Pinkner just did an interview on E-Man's YouTube channel, and they were saying something similar. So who knows? Yeah, no idea. Yeah, but thank
Gotcha.
you. Yeah, it's exciting. It's exciting to be back for season 4 for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I seriously I'm pumped to see where this goes. And I think I speak for like every fan when it's just like it's killing us not knowing, and we're getting like a little bit more, but that's even a stretch because it's like as soon as you get something, there's like a million more questions.
Yeah. Yeah.
So about what time are the scripts going out to you guys? Do you know that, or maybe you already have them?
So that's the funny thing is like, like you guys, like the fans, like everyone that's working on the show from the cast to the crew, like we're essentially all caught up now in the
Hmm.
sense that like you guys know exactly how much we know, because even in between seasons, we don't really have um, really any idea what's coming up.
Hmm.
And so that certainly makes prep a little bit trickier, but all you can really do is kind of like, work on yourself and expand your consciousness and all that stuff in between seasons. But I think, we show up to Halifax, Nova Scotia every year when we're ready to shoot, and about maybe 2 weeks, sometimes just a week before we go to camera is when we'll get the episodes.
Damn.
So yeah,
That's a
so
lot of pressure.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
crazy.
yeah. Yeah, season one was, I mean, obviously, the most, we had the most time in advance for season
Hmm.
one because here's this little baby that John Griffin had been cooking for like 20 years. You know what I mean? So he was like, yeah, here are the first two episodes. It's like, great. Okay, cool. Now I can prep. And it's like, you know what? Take 3 and 4 too. Great. And it's like, all right, now we're gonna slow down. Maybe a week and a half before you get to shoot. We'll give you your episodes.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
When you're getting back into the role of Kenny, is it ever difficult to step back into those shoes, even maybe even between shooting days, to be like, all right, mindset switch. I'm now Kenny trapped in this, mystical town that doesn't make sense, how we got here.
Yeah, our production design team does such a great job creating like very immersive, like an interactive world for us to like play in. Um, and so that helps a lot. The costumes help a lot. There is, yeah, for sure. Like, every year kind of going into it, especially because of the nature of the show and also the nature of like Kenny's arc, you have to be like extremely like raw and open in a way that's like not, it wouldn't be healthy in like your day-to-day life.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like in the way that like a lot of like how I work, it's like it is like stripping down those layers so that like when I'm in front of the camera and I'm in front of Harold or Liz or Scott or whoever is in front of me, that I'm just like affectable and I'm just there and I don't have to like generate anything out of me. And when you're that raw in your day-to-day life, it's like it takes a toll.
Yeah.
And so for season three, for season three, it was that. It was putting myself into that headspace, like understanding um the turmoil and the pain and like the confusion that's going on in Kenny's life, and then like kind of stepping into that, because in my day-to-day life, like especially when I'm working, I'm like, this is awesome. Like I miss my family, I miss my kids. I
Hmm.
get to FaceTime them, and they're doing great, and I miss them, and I'm sad in that way. But it's like I'm also working. I can make a living to provide for them, and I'm hanging out with my friends, and I get to work out a lot. I get to train a lot. And so to like kind of like step into Kenny's space, it's like it's always a little bit uh taxing.
Yeah. I'm curious if when you get the scripts, and especially because it hasn't happened yet and it's
Mhm.
pretty last minute, do you
Mhm.
fear seeing Kenny dies? Because I started thinking that like a lot of the main characters were safe, but spoilers,
Yeah.
like until we saw what happened to Jim, I was like, oh, you know, maybe you're next. Who knows? Though I
Yeah. Yeah.
do feel
Yeah.
like this like potential time traveling thing with Julie might end up saving him, but do you
Right.
do you fear that your character will die?
In season one, the only ever like official table read that we did on Zoom for episodes one and two, with everyone on Zoom. And before we did, Jeff Pinkner, our showrunner, kind of said to everyone, like, this is the type of show, um, due to story, like, like any one of you could go at any time. Like, it's not
Mhm.
personal, it has nothing to do with performance, but just know that it's possible. And so yeah, everyone's put on notice, like, got it, okay, cool, okay, cool. And so yeah, for the last couple of years, it's a consistent, like, I think my character's gonna die. Everyone's kind of like, no, not you. It's like, everyone's kind of on edge a little bit.
Yeah.
And me personally, kind of like you, in my head, I'm like, well, they literally murked the hell out of Kenny's dad in like the
Yeah.
first two episodes of the show. So in my head, I'm like firing off finger guns to all of my, I'm like, Mom, you're gonna be fine. Christy, you're probably gonna be fine. All my close peoples, you're probably gonna be fine.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm like, oh, I'm probably me. I'm probably gonna be fine. But now, obviously, as a result of season three, we know no, actually, nobody is safe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It doesn't matter how much the character has been through, there can always be more.
Hmm.
So, um, the nice thing is I'm now in a stage um in this job on this project with this character that like not that like it wouldn't suck if they killed off Kenny, but I can make peace with it
Yeah.
because they give me a lot of great opportunities to like showcase my work and I think that like I understand Kenny a little bit better now and I think that I'd love to stay in Kenny's shoes, but if they're like, hey, we need to kill him off for story, totally understand.
Yeah. Because that's,
Yeah.
I mean, that's such a weird dynamic where it's like if your character gets killed off, that's literally your job. That's now like,
Yeah.
okay, well,
Yeah.
at best you will have like you could be like the priest coming back for
Yeah.
visions or the
Yeah.
bartender,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And so that's gotta be scary. And like I'm a freelance videographer and I, understand that thing of like I literally don't know where my next check comes from. And it's always a
Yeah.
stressful feeling, but that like in the world of acting, it's probably much harder to land the next job than it is for me to book the next wedding or something like that. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
That's definitely that's like, and I'll be honest, like as a creative, right? It's like, I'm constantly like seeking out different projects and jobs and characters that I feel like would be challenging and different and new and fresh and exciting and nerve-wracking. And so if I had to part ways with From, I'd be sad because I can't hang out with my friends and I'd be sad to leave this story. But it's like Kenny's given everything that he's got to the show already. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And one of the big things would just be like, yeah, I got to support the family. I got to provide. And um, so it's exactly that. It's like the who knows when the next check's gonna come, you
Hmm.
know? Um, but I guess that also makes it feel very real when I'm playing Kenny and for everybody because you're kind of like, yeah, anyone could go.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm curious what your From theory is and how maybe it differs from what you would imagine Kenny's theory is on the town.
I don't have any theory that I'm like, oh, that's strong enough to like, yeah, I think that's that's the
Hmm.
key. But one that I saw recently on Reddit that I really liked was like a hero theory. Whoever decides who's going into the town, maybe it's the children like pulling people into the town. They're pulling in people that are like potentially heroes, like
Mm.
people that have certain attributes or certain experiences that would be capable of saving the children, as we now know is like kind of like a huge component of the show. And everyone's kind of coming in from a little bit, like Boyd's literally ex-military, Mr. Fish and Loaves, he took care of people, in the military. So obviously he has a very clear skill set. Christy is a medical student, her dream is to help people and take care of people, same thing. Kenny and his mom literally went to go pick up his dad from, after he got lost from an episode.
Hmm.
And everyone seems to be arriving with a little bit of that, you know what I mean? Or somebody that they're arriving with is capable of saving the children. So that's my theory. I think Kenny's theory is, um, you know, I think Kenny's theory is that the place plays games with you. I don't think that he's had enough time in his grief and in his duties to start thinking about like what are all the possibilities. I think his main theory is that the place is trying to break us. It's trying to psychologically ruin us. It's also why he's a designated proxy. He helps a lot of people get acclimated to the town because you can
Yeah.
go off and start theorizing and start trying to solve this thing. But before you get too in your head about solving it, find a way to find normalcy first. Let's make sure you're stable
Hmm.
and you don't just completely, what I mean, like get off your rocker.
Yeah.
I think that's his priority is he gets people acclimated and then go ahead, go do whatever you need to do.
Hmm. And when you're ready,
Yeah.
come look at the map of the United States that doesn't make sense where everyone came
Makes
from.
no sense. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Yeah, I that hero theory is interesting. I'm curious what could potentially be like the heroes of the bus that arrived, like Randall, I believe his name is, like, cause
Right.
he's very like almost anti-hero, but he clearly is
Right.
important. Um,
Yeah.
and then Elgin too, doing some shady stuff because the voices and whatnot. But
Right.
yeah, I'm
Right.
sure they all got something.
Yeah. And even so, like, even in that instance, like Elgin, even though they got to him and they got in his head, like, um, they're still kind of playing on the fact that he does have a massive desire to help everybody,
Mhm.
right? Because he's saying, she's an angel. She said we can all go home,
Right.
right? He's driven by the hope and the idea that I can help Fatima, and by helping Fatima, I can help all of us, you know?
Hmm.
Um, and also, like, if we're going with that theory, like, maybe none of those characters that survived from the bus were the hero that they were pulling in. Maybe it was that random dude Brick who just gets murked right away. You know what I mean? Like, who
Hmm.
knows?
Yeah.
Like, it's and so yeah, I think that, like, I think that the vehicles that they get pulled into by, it's not necessarily that everybody in the vehicle is was
Yeah.
destined to be there. Maybe it was just one particular person, and maybe in that case it was Marielle, because she was on the bus. And um, yeah, I also like the idea. I like this. There's a theory of like soulmates, maybe because now we're introducing like reincarnation and things like that.
Hmm.
So I wonder if like some people are meant to arrive together.
Yeah.
Who knows? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm super excited to see that story get told further. Uh, and so I'm sure that when you guys have outtakes on sets or on set, you guys probably do still react like everyone else. But like, so do you laugh during the outtakes and then just all right, get serious again? Your father just died. Okay,
Yeah.
like is that like kind of how it goes on set?
It depends on, like, it depends on the day, it depends on the type of material. Like, yeah, like when it's we have a really respectful crew, and like everyone that works on the show is like is everyone's a pro, and so it's like we all know what needs to be happening in order for us to get to a certain place. And so, like, yeah, if it's like the scene where it's like, you know Tian Shen's body, and Christy and Jade have just fixed her up, and I'm showing up like, hey guys,
Yeah.
I mean, that's not one of the days. That's not one of the days like cut.
Yeah.
But maybe it should be. But I think, but definitely, like, it's the night shoots, man. Like, obviously, like, we're in a show that we shoot in the night a lot. The night shoots get you because you're exhausted.
Hmm.
The giggles start hitting.
Mm.
It's like 4 a.m. and you're having like your 10th cup of coffee. Like, you're
Yeah.
so like, yeah, wild stuff starts happening. But I think we have a lot of fun on set. We have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Um, like, sometimes too much fun. Like, if me and Cortian are on set together, like, it's like sometimes I'm like, this is annoying for all of you guys, right? Like, this isn't like we're too much, right? We're too much. Because him and I just we get into it.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
kind of gives me it feels like the same vibe as like Tropic Thunder when the dude's got like all the guts hanging out. It's like
Yeah.
cut.
Yeah.
It's just yeah. It's got
Yeah.
to look weird, but I'm sure it's probably really funny. And a part of me wishes they had like just a whole blooper reel so we could see a different
I
side of
know.
From.
Yeah. I miss when movies would have
Hmm.
blooper, like, in general. You don't
Yeah.
really see that anymore. Even like, I miss when Pixar movies did
The fake
like
ones or
fake
something.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
at the end of yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, those are
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
So I saw on your Instagram that you had posted about Samantha Brown, like being
Uh,
kind to her, because I'm sure a lot of fans just really don't like Acosta right now because she's
yeah.
the new person in and just constantly out of the loop and also like
Yeah.
shot someone right out of the gate. Uh,
Yeah.
and so
They'll
I'm
do it.
curious with the passionate fans because I've also seen online like the people who were super passionate about season one and then they're like, oh, I hate season two and three. Like, what kinds of things do fans say to you, or do you just avoid it altogether?
To my own detriment, I'm so like I gotta see it. I gotta see it. Yeah, it's masochistic. But yeah, I mean, Kenny gets all kinds of nasty comments too. Like the nicest that they were to Kenny and to me, and the gentlest that they'd been. Obviously, it was like right after the Tian Chen episode came out, and then suddenly like all the haters were silent for like a week and a half. You know what I mean? Because they're like, oh, this guy's grieving. We should we should take
That's
it.
so funny.
Yeah, but this one, like one that I like to see that's like not one that I like to see that's like not a hating comment, like it's actually like really nice, and I'm like that's actually really kind, and I appreciate that, but always kind of makes me chuckle is like they're like, yeah, this is like the new Glenn from Walking Dead, and I'm like, yeah, I guess so because we're both Asian.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we're both Asian, and also I guess we're both sweethearts. I guess that makes me the Glenn of Walking Dead.
Yeah.
But that one I appreciate because I'm like, man, if in any moment that I'm compared to Steven Yeun is a massive win.
Right.
The GOAT.
And if
Um,
if that is you across the board in like the comparisons, then you're in for like a hell of a death.
I know, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then, but then somebody else, but then I'd also see like, oh yeah, Tian Shen's death is like when they killed Glenn on The Walking Dead. I'm like, you know what? Yeah, actually, she's Glenn from The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, well beloved. I also got like in season two, the autopsy with the body, with Smiley's body, Kenny was very vocal, but like, guys, I think this is a bad idea. And you know, the fans are like, Kenny, shut the fuck up. We need to get to the we have to, and what's funny is like when I read the episode, my reaction was kind of the same, where I'm
Yeah.
like, dude, like, wait, come on. And so that's always kind of part of the work where it's like, okay, well, how do I make it make sense for Kenny? Like, why is Kenny so against it? And eventually, like after doing a lot of work and making it make sense to me as Ricky, so that I can make it make sense as Kenny. Um, yeah, I think like he had a lot of very reasonable concerns, and it
Hmm.
all kind of played out the way that he was kind of warning everyone. Like, we have no idea what the effect of like doing this to this body is. We have no idea what bringing this body in even implicates. And then the town started getting a little crazy.
Yeah.
Started getting a little crazy.
That scene drove me nuts just because the monster wasn't strapped down. I was like, come on, like how do you
Yeah,
know the thing is
something.
dead?
Yeah,
You know? Oh
yeah.
man.
Exactly.
What was your audition process like? Did you originally audition for Kenny or was it something else and then they pivoted you there or
Yeah, my original audition was for Kenny. Kenny was written as a Vietnamese character at first, but they were kind of doing like a wide search of like East Asian, Southeast Asian actors. And when I got the job, the character became like Chinese and spoke Cantonese. The interesting thing is like when I first sent the tape, I look very young. I'm 20. I just had my birthday. I'm 29, 29. And but I look really young. And so when I first signed on to do From, I was 25, I think, 24, 25, and I looked even younger, obviously. And so anytime I see something that's like, especially at that time, it's like anytime if I see something that's like, oh, he's the deputy, mid to late 20s, I'm like, I think I'm gonna be too young for this.
right?
I don't think they're gonna watch the tape and take me seriously. But I sent myself tape, and I got a call back, which was also like my screen test on Zoom with Jack Bender and John and Jeff were watching on the side. And I remember specifically one thing that I was kind of nervous about was like when I did my self tape, the first round, one of the audition scenes was the scene that I have with Father Cautry in Colony House that first night. Because we're a bit drunk and I'm talking about my dad and like Christy takes such good care of him, and that's actually one of my favorite scenes. But I was so nervous about like getting the drunk parts of it right. Me and my friend who was helping me shoot the tape, I actually like drank a little bit of like whiskey. And I don't drink often, and I get the Asian glow
Mm.
really, really quickly. And so when I sent the tape, like my cheeks are all rosy, and I'm like, I do the thing. But when I had the callback, like an hour and a half, 2 hours before, I'm like, I'm pacing, I'm like waiting. Me and my friend Dylan, who's helping me with the thing, I'm like, yeah. It's like, do you think I should drink a little bit? Should I just like, should I get drunk for this callback? He's like, no, don't get drunk for the callback. And so that was the weird, like thing that I was most nervous about. And I ultimately didn't have anything to drink. And then I kind of ended the call. I'm like, fuck, I probably look so stupid. It's like, so hard on yourself. And up to that point, I had already kind of like I've been so close to like things that would have been like really, really great for my career and like really, like projects that I would have like just like arm and a leg to do. And I was just continuously on the cusp of these things that like 2 days after the I did the callback with Jack, I had already started to like grieve this like I'm probably not gonna get this thing. Like they have 10 business days that give me a call back to let me know whether or not I got the job. And I'm like, it's probably not going to happen.
Yeah.
But wouldn't it be crazy if they called tomorrow and then they called tomorrow?
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah,
And to think it's all because you're like, whatever, I'm gonna audition for it anyway. Probably look too young, but fuck it.
yeah,
That's awesome.
exactly.
How many auditions do you do these days, like while you're still shooting for other projects?
That's a good question because the industry, obviously, as you probably know, is like really, really, really slow right now for a multitude of reasons, economy, yada, yada, yada. But it really varies. Like, uh, especially now as a series regular on a TV series, we're kind of limited to the amount of work that we can take on,
Hmm.
um, which is the unfortunate thing. Because again, obviously we all like to stay active. Um, but actually, I would say between seasons 2 and 3, I had a pretty good boost in like auditions. Like I went out again for like a couple of like movies that I would have loved to do, and some of them just didn't work out that way. But right now it's a little slow. I'm not gonna lie to you, it's a little
Yeah.
slow. Yeah,
So what
yeah.
do you do during your downtime then? If you're so you probably audition for something that will fit in there, but like what else do you do when you're not in Halifax?
When I'm not in Halifax, like there's like a couple things that I try to do to keep me sane. Like I'm writing a lot, or I try to. Um, and but the writing kind of starts becoming a little bit existential as well because you're kind of like you're getting really hard on yourself and you're like, oh, I'm not cranking out these words and I can't, I
Hmm.
can't break the story. Um and that's where like the martial arts is really helpful. Like Jiu Jitsu is like the best kind of like equalizer, not only in like what you can do in front of another person, but just like the equalizer within yourself, where it's like, um, as you know, like it's super humbling,
Hmm.
and you kind of can be in a space where it's like, oh, none of that other stuff matters right now.
Yeah.
I just have a task at hand that I need to solve, and then when you're done, you're kind of like, okay, like yeah, it's okay, it's all gonna be okay. Um, it's been a little trickier, with the new baby to train as frequently,
Yeah.
especially because I'm the type of person that's like very obsessed with getting very good at the things that I care about.
Hmm.
And like I said, I'm 29, which in my head it's like, okay, cool. Like we're approaching the physical peak. You know what I mean? Like I have a couple of good years left in my athleticism,
Yeah.
and I want to make it count. And as a young dad, you're kind of like, I have to balance being a great dad and work and like training. And I'm just still trying to figure out the routine to make sure I can fit all those things in where I don't feel like I am selling myself short in any aspect of it. But
Right.
yeah, that's that's the and lately something that I've been working on is like just trying to be a little bit more gentle with myself in the sense that like in preparing for season 4, um, I'm trying to put myself in a little bit of like in my head, it's like a fight camp, but the fight camp is just like, as opposed to like training and getting, like I'm just gonna work out a lot, but also like just like working on my like sensibilities and like being really present with the kids, being really present when I'm training, and actually just trying to do less in order to do more. You know what I
Hmm.
mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like what you said about jujitsu because, yeah, when I'm stressed and I go there, like it's on my mind for a second and then I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
can't think about it. And it almost is like the same where it's like, if you're super stressed, but then you end up falling asleep, like when you go to bed, like it just ceases to exist. And then like
Yeah.
after the class, then you're like, oh yeah, I've got these emails and I gotta, but you just completely forget about it. It's really nice for that. How long have you been doing jujitsu?
I've been so I actually started doing jujitsu at near the end of shooting season one in Halifax.
Okay.
I'd always wanted to do jits, but I was like really committed to doing Muay Thai
Mm,
for probably just short of 5 years. I was like, I think I was like 20, maybe 21 when I started picking up Muay Thai, and my coach actually taught out of a jiu-jitsu gym. And so it was a lot of, like they finish their class, they get off the mats, we, get ready and get on the mats kind of thing. And so it was always like, I'm like, that looks really fun.
hmm
That I think I could be good at that. But I was so obsessed with Muay Thai that I just felt like anything else would have been taking away from training that.
Yeah.
And so I was just like all in. And like I said, I was like 21. I had like no responsibilities. I was living at home. I was making a little bit of money. I could just train day and night, like day and night, like 2 sessions a day, like 5 to 6 days a week.
hmm
So I got really proficient in a shorter amount of time in Muay Thai. Um, and then COVID hit. I wasn't really training. I was just hitting pads at home with my cousin. Um, and finally, when I was in Halifax, I couldn't find a Muay Thai gym that felt right for me. And so I just, like the last month, I'm like, you know what? They have a great Jits gym here. I always said I wanted to do it. I'm not doing Muay Thai right now, anyways. The gym might be closed indefinitely. I might as well just go train. So
hmm
and I started training then, and it's been I think 3 years now, just short of
Awesome.
3 years.
And
Yeah.
do
How
any
about
of your co-stars train with you?
Yeah, Harold does jits as well. He
Nice.
trains I think he's mostly doing like yeah, Nogi also. I think at 10P. And he's he's like a lifelong martial artist.
That's
Like
awesome.
he like did kung fu like all through the 80s and the 90s. He's done a bunch of boxing. He told me he wants to start training Muay Thai as well, and I was like, yeah, hell yeah, dude, do it. Yeah, do
Nice.
it. And he's just like, yeah, he's a, and we've rolled a couple of times, but he's so strong, so I don't roll with him anymore.
That's funny.
Yeah. Well, how long have you
Gotcha.
been training?
Um, Probably about the same amount of time since 2021. I've only had like two breaks, which were after I had been doing it for maybe like 7 or 8 months. I was like, dude, I don't
Mhm.
know if this is for me because I've got like these shoulder and like neck issues, and I took 5 months off, and I was just missing it so bad. Like I would
Mhm.
dream about it and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
when I went back, it kind of got to the point where I just figured out how to move a little bit better to where I'm not constantly hurting myself or ending up in
Mhm.
a spot where I'm going to get hurt or tapping soon enough before I,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
put too much pressure on my neck or something like that.
yeah.
Yeah. And then another month off when my son was born. But
Mhm.
other than that, yeah, I've just been doing that. And like, I give you props for competing because like I am pretty afraid to compete because no one's going to care if they hurt you. They probably
Yeah,
care
yeah,
after, but like they're going to
yeah,
send every
yeah,
every submission as
yeah,
fast and hard as they can. And
yeah,
I
yeah,
just worry about injuries, like just for lifelong things, but then also like if I'm working like 5 weddings and it's like, and now I have a broken leg, like how am I supposed to film this wedding? Like
yeah, 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 yeah.
I worry about those things. But
Yeah, I mean, those are super reasonable fears. I I think I was a little bit more cavalier about competing in jits because when I was training Muay Thai, there's a part of me that had always wanted to continue to fight at an amateur level while I was pursuing, film TV. Like there's in my head, I still have like one Muay Thai fight in me, and I'm
Mm,
like maybe I'll do it one day. Maybe I'll do an MMA fight one day. I've never trained in MMA before, um, but and maybe it's just wishful thinking, but when I did my first like Muay Thai fight, um, there's just like this like insane like it's like an indescribable feeling of like I lost the fight, but I remember I like got out of the ring and I was just like I couldn't stop smiling, and you're just kind of like riding this high for like maybe like a week and a half where you're just like, oh, I just faced possibly my greatest fear possible, which is like you're standing in front of someone who's literally trying to put you to sleep.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like trying to hurt you as badly as possible. And you have to not only protect yourself, but do the same thing to them.
Yeah.
And so, like the adrenaline rush and then the adrenaline dump, but then like this massive dopamine rush for like a week and a half. And what's funny is, yeah, that's always been a concern, which is like, what if I get hurt? This would affect work.
Hmm.
Um, and I had my first fight on a Saturday, and then that subsequent Monday, I had like a recurring audition for The Good Doctor. And I was like, oh, if I get hurt, I'm
Hmm.
gonna really fuck. um, but I thankfully didn't get hurt. And I walked into that audition, I just felt like, yeah, like let's talk. Let's like I felt like I like achieved nirvana for a split second or something. Like I could just do no wrong. I'm like, yeah, what do you need? Cool. Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
And so self-assured, so confident. And I think I've been chasing that feeling ever since. And I jumped into my first JITS competition like 3 months into training,
Wow.
uh, which is like so stupid. But but in my head, I'm like, at least I'm not getting punched in the face.
Yeah.
I'm not getting punched in the face.
Hmm.
But that was like one of the concerns. It's like, yeah, what if I hurt myself? Because this is different. Like we're actually trying to like break each other's arms and legs.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I'll just tap. Worst case scenario, I'll just tap.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
if Kenny ever gets cast one random episode, God forbid.
Now we know. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
John needs you to write that in.
yeah, yeah. And he's like, "Why are you limping?" I don't know, man. I need you right. I need you to do me a favor.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was curious. You're no longer Kenny in the show. You are Ricky,
Uh-huh.
one of those monsters coming at you. It's hand to hand. What's your go-to jits move to try and take as little damage and subdue the monster?
What? What's a monster? So I don't know how much.
Definitely no
Oh,
triangles. Gonna bite you.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, just get him in between my legs and just go.
Yeah. Oh my God.
No, I would say, well, at first my gut instinct was like, oh, like yeah, probably like try to duck under and get behind him,
Hmm.
um, and like control him from the back. But then we've seen like they turn their hands into these things. I think they just start going,
Yeah.
and you're toast.
Yeah.
I don't
Probably
think
the
there's
best is
a.
just to
I don't think
run.
there's. I think run probably. Yeah, run.
Yeah.
Or maybe like get real small, you know what I mean? Like with a bear, like get real small.
Yeah. The thing that sucks too is like, even if you got like a rear naked choke, you just don't know that they even need oxygen that way,
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah,
who,
yeah,
who
yeah.
knows? And, good chance that they could just duck under, like put their chin down, then
Yeah,
just start
yeah.
biting your arm. It's like,
The monsters
just,
also know jits. Yeah, 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 yeah.
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 Oh my
I
God.
feel like you like lock in a rear strangle and then like they just like turn there and like that's not how that works, honey. And you're like,
Oh
well,
my God.
that
Yeah. I
yeah.
invented jujitsu. Oh my gosh, that would be crazy. So
Yeah.
what belt are you?
I'm a blue belt.
Gotcha. Yeah,
Yeah.
same here.
Yeah. You
Yeah,
too? Nice.
yeah.
Do you mostly do gi or no gi or
So
both?
the school that I go to, I try to train like twice a week. I feel like some weeks my body feels better and I can do 3, but
Mhm.
like any more than that, and I feel like my body's falling apart. Like when you put
Yeah.
that together with like going to the fitness gym to lift weights, and it's just
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
it's really tough. But so Mondays and Wednesdays is gi, and then Tuesdays is no gi. I like no gi a
Nice.
lot better just because it's a lot more comfortable.
Mhm.
And you know, when you're doing gi, it's just so annoying, all the collar grips. It's like, God damn
Yeah,
it, if
yeah,
this
yeah.
wasn't here right now, like I would have,
Yeah.
more ability to try and
Yeah.
get past your guard or something like that. But
Yeah.
are you
Yeah.
no gi mostly?
Yeah, our gym is like predominantly no-gi. And but I think this next season when I go back for season 4, I'm probably the gym that I train out of in Halifax is this gym called Halifax BJJ Society. And they got a great gym and they got a great group. But they do both, and there's lots of classes for both. And I think that, the when I'm away for work, like obviously all the natural feelings of like missing my family and like being away in the distance and like missing like little milestone moments. But
Hmm.
the guilty benefit is like, okay, well then I'll just train as much as humanly possible
Yeah.
because all I have is time, especially when I'm not working. And
Yeah.
um, so I think I'm gonna start doing more gi stuff too. Because in my head, right, like they always say like no gi is a little bit more because of the lack of the gi and the grips, like it's a little bit more high pace. It's
Hmm.
it's closer to wrestling and people are a bit more intense. And so in my head, it's like on the days that I am feeling a bit more sore or like I just want to slow it down, I think I'm just gonna start doing some gi.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
with gi, I feel like the most alarming thing is realizing that like while you're wearing coats and stuff, you're just so vulnerable unless your clothes rip,
Oh my
you
God.
know.
Yeah.
The other question I had about jujitsu was if you could roll with anyone in the world, celebrity or not, who would that be?
Oh, that's a good question. I'd love to roll with Tom Hardy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that would be
that'd be
sweet.
a great one. That'd be so cool.
Yeah.
Because he seems like he's, yeah, like also just obsessed with it and like really into it. Like I would even like refrain from just like saying like roll with any of like, like I'm a big fan of, I've been studying a lot of like Joseph Chen right now. He was training out of B team. Um, and I like his style a lot, but like, yeah, I want to resist the temptation to like say any of like the pro grapplers because it's like I just know I'm gonna get smashed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I'm gonna get completely smashed.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't even know if that'd be fun. But like Tom Hardy, like I think he'd probably still smash me because he's been training really hard and he looks really
Hmm.
strong. But at least it's like fun. You know what I mean? Like I think like
Yeah.
that'd be a really cool one. Yeah, it's such an intimate, right? Like as you know, like it's such an intimate experience. Like when you roll, not in like in a sense that like you really get to see firsthand immediately how people handle problem solving,
Hmm.
uh, what their composure is like under pressure. And you kind of get to see a side of people that you wouldn't necessarily get to see if you're just like shaking their hand, like nice to meet you, you know?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Tom Hardy would be cool too. And like I don't think at this point that I would have to be pretty lucky, I feel like, to get him in a submission. But if not to say I tapped out Bane, I rolled with
Yeah.
Bane. Like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, come
Yeah.
on, that would be so freaking sweet.
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I saw on your IMDb that you've acted in a couple of Christmas movies, right? Or were they
Mhm.
shows? Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, were any of those actually shot during the Christmas season? Because I feel like so many movies are probably just like faking that.
Yeah.
It's shot during the spring, and then were yours?
No. Yeah, no. Yeah, there's like Vancouver has a big Christmas movie Hallmark movies industry for work. It's how like a lot of us get our first couple roles even um and and everyone here knows pretty unanimously that it's like, oh, Christmas movie, cool. So you're gonna be wearing a giant puffer coat in the dead of summer.
Yep.
Nice. Yeah, it's I don't think it's ever been winter. No, I don't think
Hmm.
so. Yeah, none of the
Is
ones
is
that I've
there a
done.
reason for that? Is it just because it'd be too hard with like the chances of snow and like getting crews out and all that?
I think it's actually I think it's exactly that. I think that people think that, well, wouldn't it be more convenient if there's already snow outside? But actually, so as we had encountered while we were shooting season three, like if it is actually snowing outside, it actually makes the continuity a lot harder
Mm,
to maintain, because if there's no snow, we'll just create the perfect amount of snow,
yeah.
right? Keep it that the whole way through. But if there is snow, then if there is snow, then it might melt or it might get more, like it's
Yeah.
hard to manage that
Even
level
just active snow falling comes in
yeah.
many different looks. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like you're on like one actor's coverage and it's like, just
Yeah.
snow everywhere, like a blizzard, and then you cut to the other person and it's like just like little
Hmm.
snowflakes. Yeah,
Like they're
so
not even in the same place.
yeah.
Yeah. Gotcha. And then is The Good Doctor a bigger production than From, or is it the other way around?
From my experience of working on, because I don't know anything on like the behind the scenes side of
Right.
things, but my feeling when I was working on The Good Doctor, because they were also like, ABC's biggest show, their hit show,
Mm,
big network. I think those guys had a lot of money on the show,
yeah.
because it was the lunches. Oh my God. The rooms that they're offering. Oh my God.
Nice.
And also like they had the benefit of like that was all shot in a studio.
Mm,
Um, and so, for years while they were doing the show, they knew exactly that where they were going to be going to work. Everything was already put in place, and they could kind of like um, really spruce up the accommodations. From is a little bit more run and gun. Like I think that like, which again is kind of testament to like how great our fans are and how great the show actually is, because for a television series, like it also kind of feels almost weirdly like an indie movie, in the sense that like yeah, we're all kind of like pulling up our bootstraps and like getting it done because we think it's a great story, we think it's great scripts, we think the characters matter, and
yeah.
obviously we all want to cover the mysteries. So yeah, so it's a good feeling,
Yeah.
yeah, to be on an indie film and a TV show at the same time, basically.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
that sentiment, at least for me, comes across on screen where it seems like everyone genuinely cares about being there. No one's phoning it in,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
you played a character called Puking Resident on Wayward Pines, which is another show that's kind of similar to From, where, it's people trapped in this town that monsters are, coming after. Do
Right.
you feel like like if that ended up being your typecast, would you be okay with that?
Yeah. Like I think I saw something. Harold answered a question about like how come they're always trapping you in a place? Because there's Lost, there's Oz. It's
Yeah.
always like kind of trapped somewhere. Um, that'd be kind of cool. I'm into it. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
down.
Yeah. I
I'm
mean,
down.
Lost was probably ABC's biggest show, of
Yeah.
its time.
With like Wayward Pines, because it was like one of the big shows here when they were shooting it, there's always like a feeling of like, man, I hope I get a big character on this. I'm so excited. I can't wait to land a huge role in this.
Yeah.
Especially because I think season two or whatever it was when I worked on the show, like the whole plot was that like the kids have the kids have had to rise to the occasion and like run the society.
Mm.
And I'm like, oh my God, I could be one of those kids. But no, I was puking resident.
It's so
Yeah,
funny.
yeah.
Yeah, I haven't watched that show in a long time, and I've only seen it once through. Was your role pretty small then? Like, did you literally just throw up, or were you in there longer than that?
I was I from my memory, I think they had just wanted me to do the throw up thing. But it so happened that like when we finished that scene, they're like, yeah, we're gonna keep you to do I think there was like a surgery scene, basically. Like we go in and there's like a soldier, he's like like bleeding all over, and I'm holding him down.
Mm.
And so that was really cool because I'm like, oh my God, we're in the middle of this, like, oh
Yeah,
my God. Yeah. So yeah, that I think that was like one of those I just did an interview, like a written interview about it, where I was supposed to fake throw up, but I like on like the third take or something like that, I like kind of ended up faking it too good,
Oh
where
shit.
then I started gagging like for real, and then they called cut, and like one of like the series regulars, like this lead actress, she walks by and she's like, "Oh my God, that take was really good." She's like, "That was like so believable." And I was like, "Yeah, that's that's crazy that you say that." Yeah.
That's funny. I thought you were gonna say they were like, you're doing too much.
Yeah.
Don't.
Yeah, you're overacting a little bit
Yeah,
here.
no one's gonna believe that was a real
Yeah,
throw up.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
funny.
yeah.
Yeah, your excitement about, just the involvement of Wayward Pines and holding down that guy reminds me of, and I'm sure you didn't do this. Have you seen the videos floating around on like Instagram or TikTok where people like hone in on a background actor who's like doing way too much? Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's so
Oh, dude, that
funny.
was me. Oh, dude, that was me for
That's
sure.
hilarious.
Yeah. I did background acting. I did background acting for a while I was trying to get started, and it was yeah, it was a lot of like the first time I showed up to I did background for the show called The 100,
Yeah.
and it's like yeah, and so I that was my first time ever on a film set, and
Mm.
I was so sure and confident. Like I had like my backpack, and I go in there and I sign in. And I'm like, "Hey, how's it going? My name's Ricky He. I'm here to be," thinking to myself like, "Oh yeah, they're gonna see this face and be like, hey, we need you in front of the camera now,"
Yeah.
Uh, and it was like the worst experience I've ever had.
How come?
It was just like it was like we we were shooting the scene where it's like one of the main characters was having like a dream or like a vision or something where he's in the forest, and then like all these people that he feels like his are their deaths are his responsibility, and so like he's like getting beat up by this other guy while like all these like kind of like zombie looking guys come up, and I was one of the zombies, but it was like we shot that on top of a mountain, like one of our ski mountains up here, and it wasn't quite dead of winter yet,
Mm.
but it was cold. It was like pouring rain. Like the tents that we were all sitting in for like holding and waiting for, like the water started collecting in the tent like a canopy, and it just started dripping
Dang.
through. It's like and it was like my first time on a set. I didn't know, like, people like say bring a book, like so that or like do bring something so that you can have something to do while you wait. And I'm just sitting there like
Hmm.
I'm gonna be a huge star.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I guess
Yeah.
that's an example right there why Christmas movies don't want to shoot close
That's
to winter.
exactly, yeah. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, hard to smile like a Hallmark movie when
Yeah,
you got to deal with that. Yeah.
yeah.
So I'm curious if someone is passionate about acting, what would be your advice to break into, the industry?
Um, I would say so like creatively, there's a Philip Seymour Hoffman quote that I will completely butcher and paraphrase, but he says something to the effect that, like, if you love acting, then act. Like by any means necessary, go train with all the best teachers in the city that you're in. Go do community theater, go do student films. Do that like creatively, like if that's what you want to do, start there and just get in as many reps as possible, like yeah, acting class, train, and then like logistically, like if you want a genuine start, you need to get an agent. In this day and age, it's just, and it's possible. It's like not this like cryptic difficult, like you need to know someone to know someone. Like when I got in, I mean, even now, like I don't really have anyone in my life that, like in my personal life, my family life, that is even remotely close to the film industry, and so um, there's no gatekeeper that says, "Hey, you can't do this," and that was like kind of one of my main, or at least I believe that enough to be delusional enough to be like, I'm just gonna go and try it. So I
Mhm.
think that's the best advice I could give is like go and try it, find an agent, and if you love to act or you think you love to act, then just do it. Do it as much as you possibly can.
Yeah. Sounds like
Yeah.
good advice. And I really like that quote too. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, because it's just about doing your passion regardless.
Mhm.
So besides season 4, what's next for you?
Besides season four, I just wrapped this this horror film, this psychological horror with this director Vera Meow, and she was so incredible to work with. And I got a chance to work with Benedict Wong, who plays the Sorcerer Supreme. Uh, and I got to work with Jimmy O Yang, who has a TV show out right now, Interior Chinatown.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, it was just like a really meaningful project to be a part of. I felt very embraced by my community. I felt like it was a very important story to be told. Some of the events are based on like real events.
Mhm.
So yeah, that was very different from anything that I've done, character wise, the way I looked. So I'm really excited about that. And then also, I believe, don't quote me on it, but I think in 2025, a film that I did um, called Worth the Wait is dropping. It's like an indie rom-com, but it's got a like massive ensemble cast with like really, really great people like Lana Condor, Ross Butler, Sung Kang, Andrew Koji, list goes on. And
Mhm.
yeah, and that was like such a great change of pace from what we were talking about before, like kind of like this gloom and dread of From, and like
Right.
yeah, being in a constant place of like vulnerability and rawness. Um, this rom-com Worth the Wait certainly has aspects of that still. It's a rom-com with like a surprising amount of like heart and I guess pain too in the core of a lot of the characters. But it was just like fun to play like I was like this like kind of fun, affable, goofy YouTuber kid.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about that one too.
Yeah. Definitely a change of pace from definitely.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that's cool too. I mean, between those two, it gets to show like your range as an actor as well. So that's
Yeah.
awesome. What was the name of the psychological horror film?
That's called Rock Springs,
Rock
and
Springs.
we just wrapped it a month ago, so I don't know that we're going to see it for a while, but
Gotcha.
I'm really excited about that one. And it's kind of like exactly like you said, like because of jujitsu and like because of like martial arts and stuff like that, like a lot of like my understanding or like lessons in life that I pull from training, I try to find parallels in our work. Um and that's kind of like one of them where it's like I've been saying a lot lately that what we do as creatives is weirdly similar to what a fighter does. Maybe not necessarily on a physical level, like the toll that it takes for some performers and for some artists. Yes, it still is. You know what I mean? Like they'll, you know, um, but in the sense that like we're only as good as the last thing that we've done.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or at least that's like the pressure that we put on ourselves. Like as a fighter, like if you get knocked out, it's like that guy's washed. Like I told you,
Yeah.
he's nothing. But if you're like on a 10 fight win streak, they're like, that's the guy, man.
Yeah.
So there's like a little piece of me that is constantly looking for like for myself, what feels fulfilling to do is like projects that are different or I get to experience and express myself differently, or it's just like really fun, or really important to me, or really important to a community.
Hmm.
So, um, I appreciate you saying that because that was like a very conscious choice I think that I made was like yeah and then these two projects are all so different and all very meaningful in their own ways.
Yeah. With From's like exponential, it feels like success. If it hasn't started happening now, I wouldn't be surprised that you start to become like that household name for the people who are looking for actors, to where it's like you might not even have to audition, or if you do, it's like, oh, let's watch his first, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I would imagine just because of how many people are watching it, how many seasons you guys are doing, combined with your performance on there, like I would imagine that you know, even if they kill you off this season, I think I think you'll be
You
okay
know,
with
yeah,
landing, you know, more of those roles that you find enjoyable.
I appreciate that. I mean, I hope so too. The naive side of me thought after season one, and then I thought again after season two, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna start getting scripts come across the table like
Yeah.
left and right. I can't wait to read all these scripts, and it hasn't been that yet, and it has kind of really uh like hit home for me that like it really is on us. You know what I mean? It's like
Hmm.
if we want to make something happen, I think it's on the creative individual. It's on the people that want to make something happen.
Yeah.
People like us that like, you know what, let's just take charge and like put it in our own hands. So I'm excited to keep doing that. And if in the meantime, people want to send me great scripts, I'm always open to reading it. Um, but I'm not counting on it anymore.
Yeah. Well, shit, what do
Yeah.
I know? Because it sounds like I thought just like you did for season 1 and 2. Like,
Yeah.
no, yeah, it's
Yeah.
for sure happening. Getting the
Yeah. Yeah.
scripts.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really excited to see what you guys do in season 4, and I'm rooting for you not to die unless it serves the story in the most ultimate way. Though,
Yeah.
honestly, if I could share a little bit of like my theory, I kind of feel like Boyd's gonna end up dying, and then Kenny's gonna go in for like like the alley oop to like help, like
Finish.
at least for like their part of, getting people out.
Mm,
Because obviously I
mm.
think Julie's super important, and
Yeah.
Victor and Tabitha, like they're all very important, but I think Kenny is going to be the alley oop for Boyd's importance, but I don't know. We'll see.
That'd be interesting. That would make me sad because I wouldn't get to hang out with Harold in Halifax more, but who knows? Who
Yeah.
knows? Yeah.
At least you don't have to deal with his strength on the mats anymore.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He is like insane dad strength.
That's awesome. All
Yeah.
right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to do this.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me.